Louise Bedford here with another episode of Talking Trading. And do you know, I have the godlike Jeremy Newsome here for you today. Jeremy is one of my favorite people of all time. We became firm friends. And you know, when people run podcasts, they say, oh, they're my friend. No, 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 no. Jeremy really is my friend. We hang out together when he's in Australia. He's presented for us. I've been on his podcast. He's a fantastic trader. He is very caring. And I think that's what's quite disarming about such an effective trader who has such a deep level of care for his people. And it has been a little while since he's been on Talking Trading. He was a regular guest for quite a few segments there, and we're so happy to welcome him back. So I know you're going to want to listen to every word that Jeremy says. Welcome to the show, Jeremy.
I'm back. I'm back with one of the
Yay.
greatest traders in the world. Just an absolute stunning human. I can't wait. So glad to hang out with you, Luis.
Oh, you beautiful man. Look, Jeremy, for those of you that don't know about your background, which is probably very few of our people, because we do really enjoy your style and the way you bring that special zest to life. Could you give us a quick summary about your past, but also I want to hear about your last year because you have had so many amazing changes. Go for it, my friend.
Yeah, it's been wild. Thank you. So I've been practicing my 30-second elevator pitch as part of like some masterminds I'm a part of. So here we go. I grew up in a single-wide trailer treehouse. I escaped a cult at the age of 24. I became a liquid millionaire at the age of 28. I lost it all three separate times from three separate crazy, tragic incidences. And now I teach current and future world leaders how to trade the stock market to be a force for good in their communities and their countries. Yeah. So that's my background. Like a
Dun dun
quick,
dun.
yeah, exactly. Quick overview. There's so much out there that's going on. I've lived a very blessed life, and I learned about trading from the movie Forrest Gump. I know everyone has familiarity with that film, but yeah, when Forrest said that he invests into a fruit company and he never has to worry about money ever again, that was such an intriguing concept to me. I'd never heard that phrase, never heard that word in my life, and I started asking my dad questions about investing and questions about stocks ever since then. At the age of 12, I asked my dad, like, what should I do now? All right, I'm 12, about to be 13. What's next? And he tells me to study money. That was the best advice that he had for me at the time. Study money. And so I started reading books that had the word money related in the title. So you have Richest Man in Babylon, you have Think and Grow Rich, you have Money and the Meaning of Life by Jacob Needleman, The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist. There's so many other money related books I just started kind of reading over time, and it slowly morphed finally kind of my perception of what's available and what's opportunistic for people out there in the world.
Yeah, so your dad actually was a positive role model with money.
He was.
Often we hear that other people have to look further afield to find their role models. So it's terrific that he was actually there for you. And
Yeah.
with where you're at currently, Jeremy, you have got married over the past
Yeah.
year or so. You're
Yep.
now a dad.
I
You are
know.
some sort of push-up champion. What is it with ice baths? All of these things I've been wanting to discuss.
Holy
You're
smokes.
doing things on rare exotic islands. You
Yeah.
have got an international business with your business being recognized all around the world. Please give us the lowdown about the last year.
Well, I think I'll blame it on COVID in a good way, right? It really was. I think a lot of people, if you had a business primed and ready, it all worked. And I had a lot of stocks, right? I had a lot of Tesla, I had a lot of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, I mean, all kinds. And I was not prepared for what happened. Like I thought that was a one flash in the pan, like we're gonna dip and then the market would kind of recover. But I was not ready for how quickly it ran up, and I was excited about it. But I did use my Louise Bedford knowledge of okay, this there will be a top here. I need to lock in some gains, and that's kind of what happened over time. So yeah, March 2020, I reconnected with my wife. My wife's name is Svetlana, and she is just a remarkable, she's just a butterfly. She just floats around angelically from room to room. She's always happy. She's always in a great mood. And she is just so incredible. And I love spending time with her and I love being around her. But I met her actually 12 years ago at a Unleash the Power Within conference.
Ah,
Your
the
boy,
Tony
Tony
Robbins.
Robbins. That's it.
Yeah.
Your boy, November 5th, 2012. So 10 years ago, sorry. That's where I met her. And we just kind of like stayed Facebook friends. Reconnected during COVID. So I flew over there in COVID to Vegas, is where she lived at the time. And that's the day that everything shut down. So they shut down Las Vegas Strip, the hotels, the motels, the Airbnbs, everything. I didn't have anyone to stay with. So I just scrolled through my phone, like, who do I know in Vegas? Well, sure enough, she was the most beautiful person I knew lived in Vegas. So I sent her, I sent her a message, but I did think she was married. I didn't think that she was single or even remotely available. I like to spend time with beautiful people. Let's just be honest. So I connected with her and come to find out that her husband did tragically die 10 years prior from tooth infection, and
Wow.
had left her with a 6-month-old son at the time. His name is Gabriel, now my son. And she had to go through a big, massive healing journey and a lot of pain and a lot of just anguish and fear, and to be a single mom, right, raising a son accidentally, like that was a massive shift for her. So
That's huge. Mm.
yeah, really, really tough, really big struggle. But regardless of all that aspect, it led up to that one moment, and everything just kind of slowly started aligning, because in January, I got very, very clear. Like at the beginning of the year, I usually do this, but I got extremely clear on what I wanted. And one of the rare things, and you probably have done this before, Luis, I'm sure, but you sit down and you come up with intention on what you want in life. And normally for me, up until that point, it had been monetary. I want to get this kind of money. I want to get this kind of house, businesses, income, revenue, friends, cars, whatever. But I never really sat down and said, what kind of woman do I want in my life?
Ah,
I'd never like planned. I thought that just kind of happened. I didn't know that you could be very, very specific. Not only that, but if I was going to attract a woman, I envisioned in my head, I had to become a different man also. So I knew the elements that needed to be shifted, that need to be changed to be with that type of person. So I started making massive, massive, massive changes in my life. And some more painful, but it was just cutting off associations, cutting off friends in the past, and just spending absorbent amount of time on myself and being in silence and just working and the fun stuff.
and did you find that some of those lessons, and you know, one of the reasons why I love hosting these shows is because I get to ask questions that I've been dying to know.
Mm,
So we share a few similarities with our background. My family was poor also, even though we were in different countries. I think some of those lessons still feel the
sure,
same.
totally.
Did you find that some of those aspects from your childhood that were really cemented into your psyche, that you had to let go of some of those areas to be able to have successful relationship?
100%.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, so many. But here's the cool part, Luis. Same work that you've done and pretty much most successful people have done to some degree. You have to go into those weeds, into those dark places, into the voices that you don't want to talk to, and really go like deep into that subconscious part of your body and your mind and your spirit to find out what is it that you believe. And for example, I had the stupidest belief in the world that I was like, oh, I don't have enough money to have a kid.
Oh,
It's just this random definition. I was like, oh, I don't have enough money to have a kid. So I just pushed that off forever. Right. I hadn't had children up until, well, a year ago. I was like, well, that requires an absorbent amount of money. And I've had enough money to have a kid since I was like 16. So, but it's just people have
but
kids all the time that don't have
at
money.
no stage did you define how much money would be needed to have a
Right.
kid. You know, that's the thing
Bingo.
I think about these unrealistic beliefs that we have, often inherited from our childhood, is
Sure.
that we don't question them, we don't probe those those to see whether they've got meat to them. We just accept them. And it's almost like when we were children, we were told something, and depending on our environment, heck, some of those things were really not positive to be told. But because we were so young, we depended on those adults for survival. So we just took that in. And when we're adults, unless we divine a time to be able to say, is this true? And is this of benefit in my life? I think that's where we can get tripped up, because we're still accepting things as if we were that child.
And you taught me that years ago, and I
Ah,
listened, but it's true. It
yeah,
is absolutely true. We have to poke around and find out what holes in our faith or our humanity are there based on what we just accept as truth, as evidence. Like, oh, I was told this, so this is it. Or a
yes.
perfect example, rich people are evil. I mean, you might not be told that directly from people, although maybe you did, but you definitely learn it in programming. So let's just go to movies. In every Disney film, let's say 98% of Disney films, so every kid in the world is watching a Disney movie. Who's the villain?
Yeah, it's somebody who's rich or a scientist.
Usually, yes, usually a rich, generally white, often male. All right.
Ah,
So now you have this interesting stereotype: rich white men are bad. But yeah, they're usually a scientist, or there's some rich person. If they are, if they're a woman, they're Russian for sure. Usually, if
oh,
they're
with big
if they're a
hair.
woman, yeah, with big hair. Yep, absolutely. But what's interesting is that's a vision. That's a programming. That's why TV is called programming channels, right? You're channeled in to their programming, and they're telling you a vision of what to believe. Television. It's all this really crazy, fun conspiracy where it's just like essentially it's not their fault. I'm not saying it's someone doing it intentionally. That's their beliefs. That's their programming onto a script. But when you watch it, I mean, I watched 100 Disney movies when I was a kid. So those things are in there subconsciously just a little bit. That if I get really, really, really rich, let's pick the movie Titanic. What a great film. Watched it at least 12 times. The protagonist, Leo DeCap, right? My boy Leo, your best friend probably, poor, doesn't have any money at all. Rose, super, super wealthy, but she's, you know, she needs to get married off to a rich man for the wealth to continue. And I forget the guy's name, but the other dude in the movie, he is loaded and he is evil. And she ends up falling for and being in love with the poor broke guy. And so my brain says, okay, well, in order to have romance, you got to be dirt poor. But if you get really, really rich, that relationship's not going to work. Those types
Mm,
of things that you learn subconsciously are there. And it's the same with trading. If I
yeah.
make a certain amount of money in a day or in a week or in a month, now I'm greedy and I definitely can't talk about it. I can't say I made $100,000 this week, because if I tell someone that, now I'm an a-hole. Now I'm greedy. Now I did something wrong. I stole from people. I'm a bad person. And there comes an expectation with that for sure.
And you know where I think couples hold themselves back is that, if just imagine a Venn diagram, okay? So
Yep.
you've got your beliefs in one circle, and then you've got your wife's beliefs in the other. Now, if in that little intersection of the circles, there are beliefs that hold you both back that neither of you question, that is where things can really go down the tube, because neither of you are firstly realizing that it's a negative belief, and also secondly, you're not questioning the other on that. You know, one of the stories that I heard on your podcast lately, which I thought was fantastic, and I wonder if you can talk about this, because I think it's an example of what I'm saying here, about sometimes you need a spouse to be able to just goad you into action. And if you don't have a spouse, you need a support system. So don't think I'm just speaking to the married people. How dare you?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking trading audience. I'm saying that everybody needs support. We're social animals. So even if you
Yeah.
don't have that with somebody who's living with you or somebody that you're dating, then find a friend who can be an unreasonable friend. Now,
Yeah.
Jeremy, can you tell our audience about how you have got a push-up challenge going on, and how Svetlana did not let you get away with it even though you were dog tired?
I can. So, first of all, thank you for listening to the podcast, Luis. You were just the sweetest thing ever. And number two, your smile is better than ever. You're happier than ever before, and I'm so excited just to again to be with you, interacting with you. It's always an honor and privilege. So, the challenge. I went to a wedding in early January, and I was sitting around. Paint the picture of the table. I'm on a private island in the British Virgin Islands, surrounded by absolutely jacked alpha males. Every one of these guys at the table is either former Marine, former military, former special operations. Like these guys are just loaded, jacked, strong, masculine, all the things. And I'm over there, wimpy Newsome, eating some sushi. And so we have a drink or two. It's before a wedding. Everyone starts talking about goals, things that they can do. And it's a great group of men, by the way. I just happen to be the scrawniest of all of them. So a great group of men. We're all talking about aspirations, what we could do in our life, and what we should do upcoming. And they turned to me like, "Hey, dude, what's the next hard thing that we should do? What's the next hard thing?" I was like, "Well, I don't know. How about 10,000 push-ups in a day?" It just came in my brain, popped in 10,000 push-ups in a day. And then one of my guys was like, "Oh, that's impossible." Now, for anyone listening, really quick, take out a pen and paper and write down the word, if you can, write down the word impossible, spelled IMPOSSIBLE. Now, I'll come back to that in just a second. If you wrote that down, for those who are listening to this incredible podcast. So I was told it was impossible. I say, okay, cool. I go later that night in my room, YouTube, most amount of push-ups in a day. Some Romanian, you probably all know what he looks like if you had to guess. 5'4", jacked, did 46,000 push-ups in a day.
Oh,
Yeah.
and then did his
silly.
Oh, wow. And I'd like to
Silly.
know how he felt the next day, to be honest. But it's interesting to me, though, my instant thought bubble was, well, that's ridiculous. But actually, that's a limiting belief. So you had to overcome that limiting belief within
Sure.
yourself that maybe
Sure.
10,000 is possible, but hey, 47,000 may not be, but you
Right.
had an idea that
Yeah.
47,000, somebody else has done it, so maybe I can do 10. You
Bang.
found an example.
Bang. That was it. So what people are always going to label you. People are going to come up with labels. Oh, hey, Luis, you're a woman. You can't do this. Or you're not strong enough. You're not smart enough. You can't X, Y, Z because your color, your race, your religion, your whatever, your political preference, right? People are going to put fun labels on you because that's what we do as humans. And that's fair. That's fair. But you can't put me into a box, ladies and gentlemen. There's no reason for you to ever try to put me into a box because I will break that box. So what I do is I look at this word that you all just wrote down, impossible, and I put a space between the letters M and P. If you put a space between those letters, it now spells I'm possible. Same word, same letters, totally different meaning, right? Just to put a space, put a little space between that M and the P, and everything shifts now. So I know that it's possible, and now I just start doing the math. How long would it take? And I start reaching out to all my friends people, and they're all telling me like all these crazy statistics, and it sounds scary. It sounds terrifying. So that day I start training. I go outside that night and I go, how many push-ups can I do right now? Not in a row, right? You do some push-ups, you rest. You do some push-ups, you rest. That night I did like 200. And I was pretty tired, and it was like at 10 o'clock at night after a few drinks and some meals. And so the next day I do 300, and then 4, and then 5, and then 6, and then 7. And I just slowly ramp up for the next 2.5 months. And there are times where I am doing over thousands of push-ups a day that take generally 6 to 7 hours minimum. And that's why I knew it. Like I was like, I married so well. I came home from a conference. It was February 23rd. I'll never forget the day. This is the thing that you're bringing up, Luis. February 23rd, I come home. I just finished 3 days of conferencing, which is
That's
energetic
that
and
of you.
outgoing.
Yeah.
Yes. Energetic and as outgoing as we are, you're giving your all. You're giving 110%. So I get home at 7:30 or 8, toast. I hadn't done one push-up all day. I'm done. And I told Svet, like, hey, I'm done with this stupid challenge. This is dumb. And the goal was to finish what's called the calendar club that month. The calendar club was where I did 100 push-ups times the day. So today was 23 February. So I did 2,300 push-ups in a day, which is it's not as much as it sounds, but it's about 500 an hour for 5 hours.
That sounds like a lot, to be open with you. Yeah.
You know, you have 5 hours to do it. You can spread it out. So I get home and yeah, that is it. That's like she says, she asked me the first, not hello, not how are you? I love you so much. You're so stunning. Nope. As soon as I come in the door, how's the push-ups going? And I told her, I was like, babe, I'm done. This is so dumb, you know? And she just was like, unacceptable. Sorry. Because up until that point, Louise, we had our February 14th is our wedding anniversary. You're going to laugh at this, but I had to do 1,400 push-ups that day. So I spent the first 10 hours of the day doing all the love things that you would do during an anniversary, right? Dinner, massages, spa time, all the fun things. And then that night, right after an intimate moment together, I'm like, all right, well,
It's on.
I'm going to go do 1,400 push-ups now. So she had seen all this progression. It wasn't like this was day one. And that is exactly what happened. She made me starting at 8 o'clock to start doing push-ups, just chipping away.
That's
And
fantastic. And for the
so cool.
final set, did she just sit on your back just to give you that extra incentive?
Not quite. But honestly, a month and a half after that, I did 10,000 push-ups in a day, and I had to break it down. I started at 3 a.m. So I was going to go for a 24 hours. So from 3 a.m. to 3 a.m. and I just did 500 an hour for 20 hours. And that was it. During that 20 hours, I took 2 naps, 3 showers, ate 9,000 calories worth of food. It was regimented. It was silly. It was horrible. But what you learn in those moments, that's what the reason I want to bring this up. People say this has nothing to do with trading. Team, this has everything to do with trading. Because if you don't think that new levels equal new devils, right? Imagine you 10x your account. In that process, there's going to be some tough times. There's going to be some challenges. You have to know who you are, what your conscious is made of, and who your support team is when things get challenged. When you get into a cash flow crunch or when you lose at trading, you have to know who your support team is, and you have to know the conviction inside of yourself to continue forward.
It's so true. Do you know, there's so many things going through my mind here. One of them is, it's a little random, but when you were talking about the impossible, so that I'm possible, that little space in between, that's like a pause. That's like a pause where you can reassess. So from an identity point of view, who are you? I'm, wait for it, possible. Now that pause is really interesting for traders. And the other thing I was thinking of, it's almost like Svetlana acted as your pause, where she was the one that said, hey, remember your goal. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, very
Yep.
interesting. So in terms of where you can take this knowledge, let's think of some of the places that you can apply it. One of the places for me, Jeremy, is, as you know, because we haven't been able to speak, because literally I have not been able to speak. I've had a voice issue that you're aware of, and you've been so beautifully supportive. And all the way through doing all of that speech therapy, I actually think it made me a better trader, because that consistency that I had to apply to be able to get better is something that I've also had to apply in the markets. What are some of the lessons from your personal life that you've been able to apply that have made you a better trader?
It's an amazing question. And I think that's incredible. The pausing that you interpreted and kind of blended that into our life and our approach, because for me, the answer is discipline and consistency. Discipline and consistency. Discipline and consistency. Because there's going to be days, and it doesn't matter how rich you get. I'm letting you all know, I don't think it matters. As a trader, as a business owner, as whomever, you're still going to have that little voice where it says, go all in. This is the one. Risk it all. That voice doesn't go away from me. Maybe for other people, but like when I'm in front of that chart, it's still there. As soon as I get into a trade, boop, you're going to lose all of your money. You're an idiot. Why'd you take that trade? You're the stupidest person in the world. I can't believe you'll do this. That still happens. So the consistency, the discipline is, doing what you have to do, no matter what, even when you don't want to. 1,400 push-ups on your wife's anniversary of your marriage. Doesn't matter. Those things that you agreed that you have to do, what most individuals find out is it's not candlesticks and it's not moving averages. You'll learn that. And if you have no idea what it is, well, you'll learn it. But that's the 5 to 10%. The rest is all between the ears, as your man says, right? As your guy. When Chris is like, it's all in the mind, it's all psychology, it's all the mental caverns that you have to dig deep down inside and figure out why you feel that way. That's it. I mean, that discipline and consistency. Find some things that you can do consistent in life. And if you can win at those, you can win at trading.
Yeah, I love it. Chris Hadfield, who is an astronaut, has a similar concept with that too. And he looks at people in a similar light. He says, are they a plus one, as in they're adding to the project, to your life, to the mission? Are they a zero, which means they don't add, they don't take away? Or are they a negative one? So that is, they
Mhm.
are actively detracting from your trajectory. And I think it's such an important concept. Where do you find you draw support from, Jeremy? I know my traders turn to Chris Tate and I, our community that we've formed, that we look after people. Even in our mentor program, it's a repeat for free course because that's what is at our heart. That is what is at our core, to help people keep working for them for free until they hit their goals. And Talking Trading, free podcast. Your podcast, it's free. Where do you turn to for support when things get tough?
I think people might be surprised to hear, but I turn on a motivational tape, video, audio, minimum once a day. So our boy Zig Ziglar has said, motivation is a lot like bathing, best done daily. So there are that talk about the consistency in the habit every day without fail. I'm going to listen to one and I'll go through the list. I'll sometimes just type in motivational video and it can be our boy Tony. It can be Eric Thomas. It can be TD Jakes. It can be Earl Nightingale, Alan Watts, Marianne Williamson, Oprah, like whoever's coming up. Mel Robbins, Jen Sincero, Louise Bedford, Billy Allsbrooks, Joe Rogan, like whoever is going through that feed. I'm not going to create judgment. I'm just going to click and listen and try to glean something from that thing, from that video, from that discussion. And sometimes it's not motivation. Sometimes it's something I'm trying to learn. And I've been doing that forever. That's something that's been a constant in my life where it's not because I have to or that I quote unquote need to or that I should, but I do realize that yes, trading, it is a competitive sport. I realize that, but there's enough pie for everything to go around. Everyone can get fed, everyone can eat. There's enough. So the abundance mindset. There can be absolute win-win-win scenarios, right? There does not have to, there absolutely can be losers, but it doesn't always have to be that way on every single trade. And I like to think about it that way. I like to think about the abundance, the happiness, and the positivity of trading. And I'll boil trading down to, for everyone who's listening, just my opinion. I'll boil it down to what I think is second grade math, the most simplistic thing you can possibly imagine. $6 a month on 1,000 shares. That's trading. Because the majority of individuals in this world, if they can make somewhere between $60,000 and $72,000 a year, they're doing good. $6 times 1,000 shares is 6,000 either Canadian dollars, Australian dollars, US dollars, euro, British pound, yen, whatever currency unit you're working with. You need 6 times 1,000. That's it. I mean, how much $6 moves happen today in the markets?
Especially
You
in
don't
the
need to.
US market.
Woo!
It's interesting to see how things are going at the moment too.
Yeah.
Both of our markets have got quite a lot of volatility. We're getting large ranges. The open to close ratio has gone up. And let's talk about trading for the moment. I love that your principle behind everything you're saying is that school is never out for the true professional. That is really at the core. of what you're saying. Now,
Yeah.
when market conditions change the way that they have fairly recently, how do you find that affects your trading? What are the things that you're saying to yourself, and what are the strategies that you're using?
So I'm reminding myself, don't short low to sell lower. That's one thing, because it's very, when markets are trending down, it's very normal for anyone listening to like short the low, and then you have to hold through a retracement and like, oh, please don't get stopped out. And then it rolls over for a little bit of a win. So I'm reminding myself, let it roll. Let it pull up. 3-4 bear candles in a row. Don't short here. But it's breaking support. I'm never going to catch it again. There's another stock. Remind myself of that often. There's another one. Don't stress. There's another one. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Wait for the retracement. Wait for the retracement. Wait for the retracement. All you need is one good retracement, right? $6 a month on 1,000 shares. That's it. So that's what I'm reminding myself. Don't short the lows. Like, let it retrace and then look to get in up there. And then number two is a momentum based strategy where I am looking for, right now, since markets are kind of bearish, is I'm looking for primarily bullish candles below the 10 period moving average on whatever time frame, the very first one. So imagine, actually, I can share my screen, but that won't help anyone, will it? Or will it?
Well, it'll help the people watching the video, but talking
Oh,
trading
okay.
is also audio, so
I
that may
know.
be a
All
little
right.
tricky.
Well,
If you want to share your screen, if you're really good at describing it, then we can go with that.
yeah, let's try it. If you can throw on sharing applications for me, just to visually break it down. I'll give a nice little breakdown for everyone who's listening. But my goal is to find a tiny, small, little bullish candle right below a 10 period moving average, preferably the very, very first one, the first one in the series, and then look to short below that particular low. So we'll take Tesla and we'll give an example of today. So today, when me and Luis are recording this, is the 20th of May, and Tesla opens, nothing special, sells off. Cool. First bearish candle. This is on a 3-minute chart. So this strategy works on any time frame. It can be daily, it can be weekly, it can be hourly, but you're looking at 3 minutes, very first candle, bear candle. What do? Nothing. You don't do anything. You're waiting because you're waiting for a bullish candle. You're waiting for buying to come in, bullish candle below that 10 period moving average. Second candle that comes in, also a bear candle. What do? Absolutely nothing. Third candle that comes in, bullish candle. The low is 709, the high is 713. So we got $4 of difference. We got a $4 difference. So I'm shorting below 709. And I'm not going to put my stop loss above the high of the bullish candle. I'm going to put my stop loss above the high of the previous bear candle and the previous 10 period moving average. So the stop loss is at 718. So to make math really easy, I'm getting in at 708 with a stop loss at 718. Difference between those two numbers, $10. My target, 12 to 15. Tesla moves like $45 a day. So a $12 move isn't a crazy ask for it to do that. So I know my risk going into a trade. I know my potential reward. And the only thing I'm doing is looking for very, very small bullish candles. On the flip side of that, right around 4 a.m. your time, which is Australian time, late in the day for the trading markets for the US, now you can start looking for bearish candles closing above the 10 period moving average on a 3-minute chart and go in bullish above those candles. So long story short, I'm not looking for anything crazy. I will look for just a momentum style play, tight little range, and just look for it to break out and to show me after it's rested that it likely is going to continue farther.
All right, I'm loving it because I've never used that strategy, but listen for the similarities here. Don't think about the differences between the strategies that I implement and that Jeremy implements. What we're looking for is a very consistent method that we've written down in advance, that we have predefined and tested for ourselves, that we can apply again and again and again. So it's often not the specific strategy that is going to make the trader the money. It's going to be how they apply it over time. I think that's really, really important. relevant. All of the things that we discussed earlier in the podcast about taking those little steps, building into that big goal, breaking down a big goal into small sections, all of
Yeah.
that is still relevant in today's market. So don't think just because we're not in a raging bull market that you are going to struggle here. There are ways to make money out of the downside. And if you don't know how to do that, you need to educate yourself. We don't know how long this bear market is going to go for. We don't know how long we're going to stay under these moving averages to signify a series
Yeah.
of lower highs and lower lows. So you can choose to sit out. That's okay too. That is a strategy. Or you can learn how to make money out of a downtrend. Then you've got the 2 out of the 3 ways that the market can go. You've got up, down, and sideways. If you can make money going up and you can learn how to make money going down, the only area left is sideways, and the markets don't trade sideways for all that long.
Mm-hmm.
You can either wait that out or you can apply new strategies. So there are ways to learn how to do this. Don't get daunted by what Jeremy said if you're new. It is certainly something that you can learn.
Yeah. You
Now,
know what I love about you, Luis?
tell me.
Well, other than everything, the fact that you're like, guys, everything works. Like you just have this abundant mindset where you're like, yeah, strategies, the strategies are the important part. You just have this beautiful abundance of willingness and acceptingness, regardless of who it is, who you're talking to, because it's all markets. Markets don't care about who's trading. They're going to make you They're going to make you either follow your plan or go broke.
Yeah,
That's the
they
truth.
sure are. And the market is a very poor educator. You know, it will reward you sometimes and it will just strip you away another time. So the
Mm,
thing is, you have to
mm,
hold the course and you have to have that
mm.
internal fortitude to manage this and to cope with all of these buffeting winds while you're sailing to your general direction. You will get buffeted. There will be times. And I think that is something that is going to be more expected as time goes on. These markets are getting more and more volatile, there's no doubt, but trends do still last. So to be able to find those trends, that is your key. Yeah. Now,
Nailed it.
Jeremy, I'm thinking that I want you to talk more about your podcast, Broke to Work. Now, I know that some of your other countries that you are in now, such as the UK, such as India, you are also enabling people to start their own education in those areas. And they sometimes have podcasts. I've been on, I believe, the Canadian
Yep.
gentleman's,
Yep.
yes, version of your business. And that was fantastic. I would like you to talk about Broke to Woke.
Okay. So there's an interesting political tie to the word woke recently that wasn't the goal when we first created it. Not that it truly matters, that we're truly ruffled by it, but to keep in mind, this is it's a funny podcast because my co-host Brittany Faith Turner is extremely successful in real estate. I cannot wait for you to meet her, by the way. She's one of the most visionary, intentional people I've ever met in my entire life. She's humble, but she's fierce. She's smart, but unassuming. And the very first season is our first time ever meeting in person. We had no script. I had asked her about 3 weeks before filming and recording episode 1, hey, would you like to do a podcast with me? Not knowing that she had been asked, because I just have this, I forget, I don't know that people are famous. I don't even know. So I'm just assuming, I'm unassuming. I don't care. And so I just asked her, hey, would you like to do a podcast? Not knowing that she's been asked to do 1,000 podcasts before and says no to every one of them. I said, I think the podcast should be called Broke to Woke. And what we'll do is we'll tell our story about how we lost everything numerous times and eventually became fabulously wealthy. And she was like, yeah, sounds like a great idea. Let's do it. So the very first season we sit down, that's the first time we meet. So
Oh
every
my gosh.
interaction, it's genuine. Like she doesn't know me. I don't know her. We know of each other. We've talked on the phone. We've talked on Zoom, but we've never met in person. And the first time, boom, recording starts. And Luis, she's one of the best speakers I've ever heard. the
You
podcast is
two
not
are
edited.
amazing together. I have listened to every single episode. When you have a slight break between seasons, I'm like, wait, when's the next
Oh,
one?
you're so cool.
Ah,
You're the best
ah.
person on planet Earth. Yeah, it's we don't edit the middle. Like it is like obviously the beginning and the end, but the middle is all we click play, and if it comes out, we just leave it.
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah,
she's remarkable. She has a vision to develop and create true infrastructure for 13 developing nations. One right now being the British Virgin Islands, and she's working on Haiti and Antigua and Bermuda. And so there's a few that we're really starting to string together, essentially where we can create true infrastructure. And she tasked me with, all right, Newsom. She calls me Newsom or J Money all the time because her husband's name is Jeremy. So there's some fun conflict there. So she calls me Newsom or J Money, but she'll say, Newsom, how do we create education for millions of people in these nations and in these countries based on what you do? How do we give them both stock market and real estate? How do we give them, because not a handout, but a hand up. Let's get them knowledge. Let's get them infrastructure. Let's get them bankability. And that's what I've slowly begun doing over time is now starting to work on massive programs where you can get 100,000 people to go through it at once. They all learn the
yeah.
exact same thing. And then at the end, they can go get their funding and boom, they're off to the races. And so this is a really, really, we're trying to make waves. We're really making dents and we're doing it badly before any delays, right? BAD, before any delays. We're just doing it and we're going to figure out at the end, how do we tweak and how do we adjust?
You know what I'm loving about this though is that we can find that general direction and stumble forward. You don't have to have it completely all laid out. You can go as
Uh-huh.
far as that
Yeah.
spotlight
Yeah.
shines and
Bingo.
then go again. You know, that's what I think as well. I want you to listen to what Jeremy is saying. You don't have to get everything perfect in the very beginning. You don't have to be, hey, I'm going to be this super duper full time trader before you've even put on one trade. You can say, overall, that's where I'm going to end up. So
Mm-hmm.
let's work consistently. Let's do the little things that make a difference. Let's do the things every single day that will drive me forward towards that overall goal. It doesn't happen like that, but it will happen if you continually apply that forward pressure. And Jeremy, I just love having you on the show. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you want to talk about?
I'll bring up three things. So, number one, I want everyone who's listening to know that Louise still listens to podcasts. I don't want that to go over. Meaning, you might think, oh, Louise she's rich, she's good, she's a great trader, she doesn't need to develop anymore, she doesn't need to do yoga anymore, she doesn't need to pour into her body and her mind and her spirit. She's good, she's rich, she's fine. No, 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 no. Making the money is easy, keeping it is harder, my friends. So never stop self-improving. That's one thing I want to take. She's listening to Humble Me, although I've been listening to her for years. She's now able to listen to our podcast. We listen to each other's podcasts, is what we're saying. We grow with each other, but we still listen to other people. We still take ideas. I don't want that to go away. Number two, earlier you mentioned trading is easy, like break it down into small chunks. If you want to make $120,000 a year, that is $600 a day, 200 days out of the year net. Bam, $120,000 a year. Do the math in a calculator. It works every single time. Let that sink in. It doesn't have to be that hard. You don't have to make money every day to make money every month. And then the last thing that I'll bring up is the spelling of my son's name. I've had a few questions about it. And he is the cutest, little chubbiest fatso in the world. I love this dude. He brings like true, if you want to see Jeremy at 100% peak energy, like just I am amped and there's nothing that can stop me. 7:30 a.m. when he wakes up smiling and he's super happy. And I see him, I am jacked. Like I could run through a brick wall. I am so amped. And I love it because he's just smiling and he's happy and he just woke up. And he's just sitting there just being awesome. So his name is spelled Jason, and it stands for Jeremy's son. And I had that name as something I want to name my kid since I was like 7 or 8 years old, buried deep down because like this is outrageous. This is a dumb name. People are gonna make fun of him. And I told my wife, and she said absolutely not. And then all I had to say is, "But babe, that was my dream." And she's like, "Okay, done." She's like, "I get to pick the middle name then." So his middle name, you're gonna like this. I was so close. She says I wasn't close, but I was. I was very close to Maximilian. Instead of Maximilian, which is a very common name, I think, kind of. I almost got to go Jason Maximilian Newsom, but his middle name is Michael. Jason Michael Newsom. And yeah, I love that kid. And it has been a very interesting adventure to figure out how to also continue to trade and figure that whole piece out because I do almost feel slightly guilty at times if I'm in front of the computer for 3 hours, knowing that my wife is taking care of little man. Like that could be me. I should be doing that. And so figuring out that has been a time where I'm pouring into my other dads out there who are awesome dads, who are great husbands. I get to learn a whole new piece of humanity that is very exciting for me. And it's a beautiful endeavor that everyone I'm sure has gone down at some point, and it's one that I'm truly, truly enjoying.
And do you know what you've got to look forward to here? So, you know, my children are 19 and turning 15 very
Yeah.
shortly.
Yeah.
So, my children have never known two parents who have worked outside the house in a full-time capacity.
Mm.
They have got such a different view about
Mhm.
mindset, money, about what it takes to sell your soul to somebody else to be able to make a
Yeah.
buck. It's
Sure.
fascinating to see. And sometimes I don't even realize until I'm around other children who are saying things that are so foreign to my kids. It's going to be an incredible journey for you watching your child grow, watching your children grow, because you've got a twofer. So,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
seeing how their attitudes and their views about wealth and abundance are formed as a direct result of the work you have done on yourself, my friend. You are going to love it. It's the best form of brainwashing. I adore brainwashing my children.
For
And
sure.
seeing where they will end up is just a life pleasure. And Jeremy, where can people contact you and what do you think would be a good next step?
That's a great question. I would love for anyone who's listening. I think Instagram is global. It's a great platform. Me and you connect on there a lot, and WhatsApp. Just shoot me a message on Instagram if anyone wants to track me down. It's Jeremy with two R's. So Jeremy, Jerremy Newsom. Just find me that way and shoot me a message. Definitely give Broke to Woke a listen because Brittany Turner is just a remarkable, sensational human being. And she deserves to be a motivational voice for women. And she is putting out content and going down that vein because she needs to be. And then honestly, just continue to pour into others. If you are here listening and you have a child under the age of 14, I just finished a kid's book called A Stock Market Journey. Yep, A Stock Market Journey, how to make sure kids win every day in real life. And it's a kid's book about stock trading. At least that's what it is. And it's designed for like 8 to 14-ish.
That
And
is brilliant. I didn't even
it's
know that. Fantastic. That is
it's pretty
definitely a
good.
gap in the
It's a pretty good
market.
book.
Oh,
Yeah. I
well
think you'll
done.
like it. Thanks. Yeah,
Well, that
thank
is a
you.
way you can definitely influence your kids' money
Yeah,
scripts by giving them good input and then
yeah,
discussing it with them. I
yeah.
love that. Fantastic. Well, we're going to definitely have to feature that at some stage in the
Thanks.
future. Jeremy, from Real Life Trading, you are a goddamn superstar. I adore you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming onto the show and listening to Talking Trading. For everybody listening, just take the heart of what Jeremy is telling you here. Realize that this man has got a big vision that scares him to his very cotton socks, but he's moving forward bit by bit towards it. He's not letting excuses get in his way, and he's using the support that he's getting from his wife and his support system, because it's not just one person, to drive him further forward. So if you have gaps in any of those areas, find ways to plug those gaps. We are so excited to have you as a part of the show, Jeremy. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.